Hello everyone and welcome to this series of Onshape tutorials. In this series, I will be showing you ways to use Onshape and giving you rundowns on different tools in Onshape to help you with your 3D modeling journey. This series will be primarily focused on using Onshape in means of a FRC team, so there will be many tools on here that will not be showcased as they will not be used for a FRC team. If you're wanting to learn how to use those tools, I would recommend just messing around and figuring out how to do it yourself. Other than that, I will be giving you many different tutorials throughout this series on how to use many different tools in Onshape. Hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome to part 6 in this Onshape tutorial series. Today we're doing gears. I know, they're great. So, this gear here I did not make myself. I imported this from what's called MKCAD, which will be what our next episode is on. But for today, we need it to figure out how to make gears mesh properly if you're trying to fabricate a part using Onshape. What I mean is if you're designing a part in Onshape and then you're like 3D printing it or you're putting it on some sort of CNC machine and it needs to have gears mesh properly together, you need to know how to do that in Onshape. So our first step is we're actually going to use the measure tool that we used last time to figure out the rough relative size of this gear. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this point here on this corner tooth. We're going to go straight down and then take a point somewhere around here. What that'll do is you see this minimum distance says it's 1 inch. That is about how big the gear is. And so that is going to be very helpful for us. Remember this number, 1.086. We're going to see if I remember it. 1.086. So we're going to make a sketch. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the circle so I don't forget the size. 1.086. And now you'll see if I kind of drag this over here and put it in the center here, you see how close that is to the size of that circle? If I then was to duplicate this circle using Control-C and Control-V, and now we're going to use something I didn't tell you guys about, and that's this little area here has a bunch of what is called mate features, which you've probably seen popping up throughout. And what they basically do, or sorry, they're not mate features, they're constraints. And what they do is they basically hold things in place. So if you set two things to be equal, they will always be equal to each other. They will always be the same size. If you set the two things to be parallel, they will always be parallel. So these are things that kind of restrict the movement of parts. You can delete them, you can add them however you want. If something in your sketch is telling you that like a constraint is not working or something like that, try deleting a couple of the red constraints and it'll probably fix it. But what we're here for this time is tangent. Because if I tell both of these to be tangent, look at that, they're now together. And so because they're now together, if I try to move one, you see how it kind of like moves both of them and they try to stay together? What we can do with this is if I just kind of like make a box around this real quick. Doesn't need to be anything fancy, just a box. And now if I take this part and I was to just extrude it by like 0.1, it's gonna break because I have these on top of each other. So you see how that's breaking? That's because these two things are on top of each other and it doesn't know what to do. So usually your gears would be bigger than your holes are, but in this case they're not. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make some smaller holes in here. Hit a check, and now for the extrude, because I don't feel like clicking stuff again, well, I shouldn't say clicking stuff again, because I don't feel like changing around a whole bunch of things, I'm just gonna click all of those parts separately and mesh them into one. So now I have this block here. So now we're gonna make another assembly. I know, crazy. We're making another assembly. And this one is gonna be called gears as well, just to keep consistent. So for once you guys are actually getting two documents in one, how special. So we're gonna grab our little gear here, and we're just gonna grab this one here. Well, actually, I'll grab this one, make my life easier. And so what we're gonna do this is we're gonna do a revolute mate with the center of this and this part here. Gonna flip it around, and now I'm going to copy and paste this one. Sorry, I've been going a little fast. I don't want this to take a while, and this is kind of a tedious process. But we're gonna do the same thing here. Check it. And then we're going to fix that in place. And now, you see how well those teeth mesh? If I just rotate this way a bit, you see, those mesh really well. So, if you actually were to fabricate this part and 3D print it, these teeth would mesh incredibly well. Pretty much perfect. And that could be due to the slight rounding we did based on the size of these and small imperfections. So chances are, when you actually see it, it'll fit perfect. You don't got to worry about this like really tiny overlap here. If there is still a tiny overlap, it'll just kind of push them apart slightly. Nothing to worry about. But what we're going to get into is, you see how when I rotate one, it doesn't rotate the other one? Well, that's not how gears work. So we're going to use the gear relation. And the way this works is you click it, you click the two mates that you want to be related to each other, and you just hit check. And now if I spin these, you see, now they behave like gears. And you can chain these together to make really long chains of gears, but now they spin like each other. You can even put in a gear ratio, which these ones are just 1 to 1, but if you put in a ratio, it will actively change the speed as they move. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to gears and Onshape. Hope you enjoyed.